This is Scott, and you're listening to the Permaculture Podcast. This episode is based on a question I received asking, what is your design process, site analysis, implementation, and how you approach a design? When people think about permaculture design, they imagine the finished master plan, one where every tree, shrub, and mushroom is placed, where every system, including sun, wind, water, and people, is mapped out. Everything together is solved on paper. Practically, the most successful permaculture landscapes aren't birthed from those perfect plans. They come from our process of observation, education, and incremental change. Slow solutions, small solutions. So I want to talk about how my design process has evolved and why I believe how we design matters more than delivering a complete, comprehensive plan. Early on, just after getting my permaculture design course, my instinct was to collect as much information as possible. My intake forms were long, something like 5 pages, around 30 questions, and I asked my clients about every option, preference, and idea I could think of. I'd spend time on site with them, we'd walk the land together, and I would actively listen so that I could try to see the space exactly the way they did, so that I could wear their shoes and understand what they wanted out of this landscape and what their permaculture experience would be like. This, at the time, felt like the responsible thing to do. More information meant a better design. At least, that's what I thought. But once I got back to my office and started putting pen to paper, I found myself wading through pages of notes, trying to sort out exactly what really mattered. I'd sit and I'd take what I found and I'd create an initial design, share it with a client, get feedback, then rework it. The process was effective, but it was slow and inefficient, for my time and for theirs. I found that all of the information that I collected wasn't enough of the right information. Much of it was extraneous and didn't help the design. Separating out the unnecessary from what I needed took time. Could I produce an effective design? Yes. Was it efficient? No, not at all. But even knowing its flaws, I think that trying to gather everything into one place is where designers need to start. You have to experience that information overload to learn what's valuable. You need to make those early mistakes to understand which questions matter and which ones don't, for you, for your clients, and for the space you're designing in. I say this because what I need and what you need aren't going to be the same. We have different understandings, different experiences. We specialize in different areas of knowledge. So it's good to work through this and refine what you need yourself, even if we are working from similar frameworks. Collecting everything I could, though time consuming, taught me how my clients think, what they're likely to ask for, and where confusion and misunderstanding is likely to show up. So I went from collecting everything to refine my process so that I could look for my own as well as my clients' recurring patterns. What information did I actually use? What came up frequently? What could be simplified or removed? As I continued to search for similarities between clients and my different design experiences, my intake forms got shorter. My site visits got more focused, and I collected more of that information that directly supported the needs of the design and of my client. I found efficiency as I sought clarity. I moved from designing landscapes to designing my design process. And as I did so, I noticed a deeper understanding emerging. Most people asking for a permaculture design aren't actually ready for one. They don't understand how their site functions. They haven't learned to see the visible and invisible resources and structures clearly. They're also often missing the context needed to see an integrated functional design to fruition. I first heard about something like this during my permaculture teacher training from Andrew Millison. At that time, he shared that even under the best of circumstances, only about a quarter of permaculture designs are ever fully implemented. And that figure really stuck with me as I refined my design process. As I collected less information, I began working on a smaller scale that's easier to actually implement than trying to put together a design that took tens of hours and would only wind up living in an email. These days, my design process centers on education. I teach my clients the core of permaculture through their expressed goals, what I perceive of their needs, and the land they have available. Instead of sending them a finished plan, I help them understand the site they're creating and living within with their own personalized permaculture class. More than an introduction to permaculture, it's also less than a full permaculture design course. We don't talk about all climates, but rather focus on their climate. We don't talk about all plants, but the ones that live and grow beautifully in their biome. If we're working in person, everything starts with walking the land. Moving slowly, I ask clients what they notice. Where does water flow? Where do they see the sunshine? Where are plants thriving? Where are plants struggling? I add to their observations with what I see, so that together we enter into a dialogue with each other and the land. That shared observation builds a common language with each other and a deeper understanding of their design goals and the site they're working on. From there, we can identify leverage points that they can use to deploy slow and small solutions so they can create bigger change. Rather than a complete design, we design a practical next step. Then, as my clients implement a piece or two at a time, they can see how things go and adjust. Throughout, I remain available to continue teaching them the next thing that they need to know or to consult on their project, so that I can guide them as they make decisions while the landscape evolves. Bit by bit, we implement and increment their design. This allows us to build confidence for them through a series of small successes as their design comes to life. Because our permaculture landscapes, and really no landscape, is static, we focus on the dynamic nature of change. As the land grows and responds to change, our clients grow and learn along the way. They understand their site deeply and intimately. They are actively creating the design for their landscape, not just following a plan. They become the designers themselves. In the end, I think that that's more sustainable than any drawing could ever be. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Permaculture Podcast. If you like what you heard, consider joining our Patreon community at patreon.com/permaculturepodcast. Until the next time, spend each day designing your design process while caring for Earth, yourself, and each other.